Hi, welcome to Leap Taken. This is Mika, and here at Leap Taken, I talk about all things witchy, craft-related, law of attraction, manifesting, esoteric, and everything else in between. And today I want to talk a little bit about some flaky witches, flaky witchcraft. So what am I talking about? So flaky meaning kind of like in, you're out, maybe you got in because if it was a trend, maybe you like the cool aesthetic. But you didn't really fully commit it. You didn't commit your spirit, your soul. You didn't commit your mind to the concepts that is, practicing witchcraft or some sort of magical system or some sort of religion that uses magic. You didn't fully embrace it. You kind of just dipped your toe in it and held it and called yourself a witch. So those are what I mean when I say flaky witches. And conversely, once they do that, they tend to kind of take their toe out the waters and tell everybody else the water was uncomfortable, don't do it. They've had this experience and they're telling you it's not what it seems. And all they ever had was just one toe in the water. They were never fully immersed into all that is and what it could mean specifically, individually, just to them, what they could have gotten from it spiritually and how they could have grown emotionally, health-wise, physically, from their experiencing with practicing witchcraft. So that's what I'm talking about when I talk about these flaky witches. So let's talk about how not to be a flaky witch when it comes to your craft, how not to do that. So the first thing is being realistic. And I know that a lot of people don't necessarily want to equate practicing witchcraft with being realistic, because I know there are people who feel that we're all playing pretend. It's all in our heads. We believe it's real, but it's not really real. So I am taking all that into consideration when I say be realistic. Watch my series on how to be a witch. I honestly feel that I am giving really great information on how not to be flaky. You can take a lot. Video 1, Understanding Witchcraft, will definitely having you define what you believe. Not what I think, not what the books say, not what anybody else says, but what you believe it means to practice witchcraft for you, not for others, just for you. Once you define and put structure on it, it's hard to be flaky because now you've put thought into it. It's become something a little bit more serious, a little bit more genuine. So, it's hard to flake out on it because you've made this is something you thought about and you defined and hopefully wrote down so you can reference it. So you kind of keep out of the flaky realm, excuse me. I promise you, witchcraft is not what you see on TV. Rarely is it ever. I think that we have those, maybe most of us have had supernatural moments where, something has moved, or you saw something. Some people see actual people where they look like flesh and blood, if just for a moment. But the point is, it feels like something in the movies. Those are usually rare experiences. Most of us who are practicing are not having those types of experiences 24/7 all the time. You might go through a period of time where you are more receptive and you're having that, but it's normally not like in the movies, like, Ghost Whisperer, where the deceased are coming up and asking her to solve their crimes, and it's happening to her like every day. A lot of us, most of us, that's not really what's happening, honestly. So, and even if you are having an experience where you are receptive to speaking with those who have passed on, usually if that's the case, most people know how to guard and shield themselves for when they don't want to communicate. They don't want to do that right now. They're having this experience, they're having sex, they're out to dinner, they're whatever the point is. That's not a good time for spirit communication. So they have protective measures in place so that that's not an issue. So again, it's normally, rarely ever is it like it is in the movies. So that's being realistic. Knowing that it's not going to be like that. So if you were looking for that type of experience, you probably won't have that experience because that's make-believe, that's in the movies. And for those who are, we'll say, fortunate to have those more supernatural experiences, like I said, those are usually few and far between. They're usually a once in a lifetime experience, or maybe at certain times of the year when the veil is thin, they'll have these types of experiences, but it's normally not something every day. That's just, honestly, it's not. That doesn't take away from what is happening every day, just to be clear. Realistic. Analyze what attracted you to witchcraft. That's being realistic. Why did you even get into this? Why? What attracted you? Was it the trend, the clothes, the decor, the look, the tools, somebody and it looked cool, they made it look cool. No judgment from me, but maybe if those were the things that brought you in, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be doing, because those are like superficial reasons. Sometimes, I think spirit meets people where they're at. So if you're in a superficial space, they might have to come to you in that way. But that doesn't mean that because those things are no longer trendy, your friend fell out of, witchcraft has fallen out of fashion. The friend doesn't seem as cool anymore. Doesn't mean that you have to give up on the practice. It doesn't mean that, now you're just playing pretend and they've moved on. And now, you're stuck. No, that's not it. Maybe that's how you needed to be pulled in. I read this book. It's, I can't remember the author's name or even the series of books, but they were basically, it was like a paranormal cozy. So they solved the protagonist solved mysteries, murder mysteries. So anyway, as she was a practicing witch, she was Wiccan. And I remember, like one of the first books in a series, that's something that the character was saying, that, they had she and her friends in college, in high school, had gotten into witchcraft and then went on to college and they were still into it. And a lot of them, they felt like, wow, you still do that? She was keeping it from them, because she was saying they stopped and they grew out of it, but she actually deepened in her practice. So she was a little bit ashamed about that. So that's part of, the character's growth as the series progresses, that she's becoming more open with her spirituality and all that sort of stuff, because she has friends and people who are on that path, but she just doesn't want anybody to know it, because she's a professional, she's a lawyer and all this stuff. Cool series. If I can remember, I'll link it in the bottom, the description. That's a fun read, that series. But anyway, the point is, Flaky witches. I'm lost my whole train of thought. Forgive me. I start thinking about the book series. Oh, I get distracted so easily. Anyway, the point, and if you're doing it for rebellion, I was going through my list here. If you're doing it just to stand out for rebellious reasons, if that was something that attracted you to it, I don't know, for that one, that's a little tough one, because unless something really resonated with you, you're going to flake out. Because that's not going to be enough to hold you. In the same way that, people pick, a guy, a girl, they'll pick a certain type of person that they know their parents would never approve of. That person typically is not someone that they're going to be with indefinitely. It's usually literally a phase, and for some people, practicing witchcraft is going to be a phase. And yeah, I'm putting you in the flaky category. So there's that. Notice I didn't talk too much about age, although I just used the example from the character in the book. Just because if you're watching this video and you happen to be like 15, 16 years old and you're interested and you're like, wait, am I going to be a flaky witch? Am I flaky? Because last summer it was like everything, and now this summer, I'm not against it, but I'm not as excited as I was before about practicing witchcraft. It's not the most end all to be all like it felt like last summer. First of all, typically with younger people, having raised two of them and been a younger person myself, they have an emotional range that the rest of us older folk usually kind of settle down on. Theirs is like, it can spike over things that they become infatuated with. It's just biology. It's just the way you're wired. It is what it is. That's why, with teenagers, when it comes to relationships, whether it's just like their best friends and their friends, it feels like the end of the world for them. So when they fixate on something, when something is new and exciting, that's, teenage fans to, various, groups and celebrities and stuff like that. Their fandom when they're teenagers is a lot more intense because they have that emotional range that us older folk, like I said, we learn to level off a little bit. It's not that we don't get excited or get entertained or we become fangirls too. It's just that we know how to balance that a little bit more because we have so much more nuance in our life where they typically don't, not yet. So anyway, if you are someone who is younger and you're kind of still in that range of, still trying to learn how to balance your emotions a little bit more, I wouldn't necessarily put them in a flaky category. I would just, I think there's a reason that maybe they go in and then come out and maybe go back in again. And that's perfectly fine. I don't think I don't know, they're learning, they're teenagers. Because the same could be said about anything. It doesn't have to just be witchcraft with them. It could be anything. I've seen this happen myself with my own kids and my friends' kids and everybody else. And like I said, myself and my friends growing up, things fall out of fashion. It's fine. So I'm not really putting them in a category. So if you're one of those people, you're safe. You're safe. Which is my next thing. Nobody likes a flake. Nobody likes a flaky person. It's not fun. You waste people's time. So I have a video. It's some time now that it went by. It's about solitary witch life is a trip. I think that was the title of the video. And in the video, I'm just talking about my experiences with people who ask, it seems to be working for you, being a witch and practicing witchcraft. I feel called. I remember that conversation like it was yesterday. I will never forget. When I did that video, that was a very true situation. And I can recall it very easily as if it was just yesterday because it bothered me a lot. And the person was asking all these questions and they did it to me at least 2 or 3 different times where they wanted details. They wanted a discussion more than one at different times. It wasn't like a one-off where they really wanted to learn more. And they were nudging for me to kind of show them and teach them. And as if you, the person watching this video, were to reach out to me and say, hey, could you show me this or tell me more about that, or would you mind mentoring me more? I'm gonna tell you right now, the first thing I'm gonna do is send you to go read something. I'm gonna tell you to go buy a notebook, a special pen that you like, and I'm gonna tell you to go read. I'm gonna have a list of things for you to read before we even have a conversation, because I'm not gonna sit there and be an audiobook for you. Because a lot of this is individual work that needs to be done. Then I'm gonna ask you, well, why are you wanting to do this, that sort of stuff, so the other stuff you were doing didn't work out. So by default, you're coming to this, like, what's your motivation? Why are you here? Why are you interested? And I'm not saying that to discourage you or to scare you away. It's more like, who wants to waste their time? It's annoying dealing with somebody who's flaky. You ask me all these questions. You want me to go through this exhaustive explanation just for you to turn around and not ask me anymore. And ignore the conversation, like act like we never talked about this. So if, now it's on me, am I going to bring it up to you? Because now I'm curious to know, was there a stopping point in your evolution of going into a witch, or did you decide to do something else? People tend to clam up and not want to tell you anything at all, which is ridiculous. As I'm saying, clearly that bothers me. So don't waste people's time. People will not take you seriously when you're a flaky witch. People will not take you seriously. So it's not even so much that you're jumping ship to a different religion. It's more like no one's going to take you seriously if you really hot and heavy on this and now you're not and you're speaking negatively about it. That's actually the worst thing you can do. On top of that, like I said, dipping your toe into the witchcraft waters and telling everybody else how the water sucks and it's bad and it'll take your toe off, as your toe is still intact, by the way, you're having this conversation with people. You're a hypocrite. You don't know what you're talking about. You have not immersed yourself enough to even really give an opinion on what it is or isn't, because you never were fully committed. Like I said, nobody likes a flaky witch. Nobody likes a flake. Dabbling in witchcraft can have consequences. And here's where I'm going to help the flake who then likes to talk negatively about witchcraft. I'm going to help you with this. Yes, sometimes if you dabble in witchcraft, there can be negative consequences. You can invite spirits to attach themselves to you that haunt you or haunt people around you. Your daughter's having nightmares. Your son is overly aggressive and he's only 5. It makes absolutely no sense because he never acted like that up until now. You'll talk to maybe other more religious folk and they're going to let you know that Satan, the devil, the demons, blah, blah, blah. And that's all that what it is, where they'll maybe even go as far as to do some sort of house blessing. Maybe you'll do some sort of, I don't know, what do they call it? Exorcism or sorts, something along that line, to rid yourself of the demons that have attached to you, when in reality, they are not demons. So why would an exorcism work on a demon when it's not a demon? When it's really, you know, your molesting uncle that died, one of your ancestors, because we can get into that conversation on, let's talk about ancestors and, you know, is are all ancestors good ancestors? Should you revere all of them? No. So, you know, but you didn't take the time to learn. So you, on the strength of working with some other energy, just letting any old entity, spirit, energy come through, leaving altars half up, altars half clean, but you left the gate open, and now they're in. That's the consequences of dabbling in witchcraft. Doing spells that you didn't understand, and you actually cursed yourself. You hexed yourself. You hexed your own household. That's why your money's not right. You so busy thinking you're being punished by, you know, your sky daddy, that you're not realizing that you did this to yourself. This is all you. This is not a demon. This is not Satan. This is just you not knowing what you were doing and flaking out and not repairing the damage. Because, listen, bad spells, hexes, curses, yes, hauntings, they can be reversed. You don't live with it. That's not how, you know, you're not going to go insane unless you just let it continue on. Yeah, it can drive you insane. I have a video where I talked about a haunting that I had. It's a real true story. It's real life. I have no reason to embellish or add more or make the whole thing up. I'm too grown for that. So what I will say is, it was my own ignorance that caused that to happen. I did not protect myself. And I've been practicing for a few years, but I was with people and I kind of allowed the friendship and the newness of the friendship to supersede common magical sense, and not protecting myself, because I was very curious and I wanted to see more about what the person was telling me, that I did not shield myself, and I got what I got. Yeah, but magical consequences. Also, there's physical consequences that come from practicing dabbling in witchcraft in a very flaky manner. Investments in supplies. You spent your money. You spent money in creating altars and to buying maybe magical jewelry and all these candles and incense and oils and maybe services from other witchcraft, maybe mentorship. You paid for something and now you flaked out on it. So again, in books, by the way, books can get pricey the more you buy. So you might have kind of went, like I said, hot and heavy in the beginning and made this monetary investment, and now, you know, you've convinced yourself everything is evil, so you're giving it away and burning it. So, you know, that's silly, but whatever. You can see how I really feel about this, right? And finally, as far as consequences are concerned, I'm just going to say hurting people who take their craft seriously. So if you're in your own world and you're not really dealing with anybody, then obviously this doesn't apply. But once you immerse yourself into community, witchcraft community, then, and you're interacting with them, and you're flaky about this, you're not 100% invested, you're just kind of going with the trend, or like I said, the shiny crystals attracted you, something, you know, or a friend, somebody you know is doing it and they make it look so cool, so you want to have that same level of swag, you know, witchcraft swag, so you're doing it. My point is, you can hurt those people who take it seriously because they'll notice. They'll notice, and if they was legitimately trying to vibe with you and they, something about your energy, regardless of you being a flake, that sort of attracted them and they thought they had a like-minded person, it could be very hurtful. And a lot of people who practice, man, they are empaths and they pick up on stuff and they can internalize that. A lot of people don't know how to balance that very well. They internalize other people's stuff, and If you know, you got people out here dealing with depression and all kinds of stuff. You don't know that, but you being flaky, you can trigger people. Just saying. So be careful with that. Let me see what else I got here. That was it. Oh, and then I kind of wanted to kind of veer off a little bit more on, you know, back to not being a flake. I just wanted to say this though. When questioning your decision about practicing witchcraft, tap into your intuition and let it guide you. Learn to distinguish fear versus your intuition, because that will be the determining flaking factor, whether you're flaking out or not, or a flaky witch. Typically, fear and guilt is at the root of the flakiness. There's a commitment issue. They don't want to commit. Like I said, they came to it for maybe not the best reasons. That's one. But let's say something kind of did get their attention practicing, and they stayed longer than they had planned on it into practicing. That is, usually the thing that makes them bail out is going to be fear. And that's why I see a lot of people. In the video I had from New Age to Jesus, most of it's fear. People who are, like I said, dipping their toe in the magical waters and the witchcraft waters, and they are freaked out by things that they don't understand, because especially for those who are still very convinced, or they haven't divorced themselves of those big three religions. If they're still very tuned into that, and it's influencing the way they see the world, the way they see practicing magic, whether spirituality in general, they're trying. I mean, there are people who are trying to think differently and be open, but it's hard for them to look past all the stuff they were taught, and because they were indoctrinated so young, it feels real and like truth. And for somebody to say something different, it feels blasphemous, it feels wrong. But you know, you have to be strong, and you have to persevere, and you have to want something different. You have to want it. So a flaky person, it's going to be hard for them to navigate those waters. So they're just going to give in to fear and guilt. They're going to give into it. It's going to be too hard. And intuition, just so you know the difference, how do you decipher that? Intuition is usually clear, decisive. It's a gut feeling about something, even if you don't like it. Even if you don't like it, it's usually a feeling like, no, it's okay, or no, it's not okay. It's not like a lot of mystery. You can feel the right way to go, even if that's not what you want to do. That's intuition, just to let you know. Anyway, and just more about that. I think that, like I said, those flaky witches who stop practicing and then want to speak negative, excuse me, negative about the craft, are usually doing so from a place of fear and most likely guilt. Like I mentioned, you know, the other big three religions usually are at the root somewhere in it, or this person has issues in general with committing. You got people who, they're Buddhist, they're this, they're that. They flip, they change, and they're going to tell you, well, I'm just trying to find myself. Well, you never really immerse yourself in anything long enough to find anything. But anyway, yeah. So that's what I think. These are just people who struggle in that because they're fearful. There's a reason they have this fearful block, this wall up, so they won't ever go all in and really have a full immersion experience, because they won't allow themselves to, because they're afraid. But like as with any fear, it can be resolved. I think it starts with belief in yourself and connecting with the authentic reasons for connecting with witchcraft need to be revisited. At some point, there was something that might have kept you entranced with practicing. So dig on that. Go into that a little bit more. Revisit that. Write in your journal. Maybe find a trusted mentor, especially if you're wavering on this before you've made a decision. Maybe find a mentor. Read more and take notes from what you read. Keep quiet. You don't need to be talking to too many people, especially those who don't do any of the stuff that you're doing. Keep quiet, because some of us might have come into this more flaky, and something kept you. And you're, like I said, there's this space where you kind of like, witchcraft is going out of fashion. Maybe I should look into this other stuff, or, you know, you're torn because there's this something telling you to kind of stick around. You might need a mentor. You might need to talk to somebody, but don't talk to just anybody, because some people are going to obviously tell you to do totally what they want you to do. So you got to be careful of that. So maybe keep some of this stuff to yourself. And finally, I would just say focus on being a basic witch. Yes, a basic witch, no frills witch. Don't make any commitments to a specific path. Don't call yourself a green witch. Don't call yourself a cop. Just don't. No, just basic witch, and that's cool because that's what you're floating on. Because you're trying to immerse yourself. So don't add titles. Don't add commitments and all that sort of stuff, because that probably is going to make you a little skittish. Just go through the process and just practice. And finally, do not commit yourself to any specific god or goddess, any particular organization. I would not do that, because you're a flake, and and the demands and the structure is probably going to eventually, you might not want to deal with all that. So just be a basic witch until you figure out otherwise. And those are my tips to not be a basic witch, and the reasons why people don't like you. So hopefully you've learned from this so that you won't be one. And if you know of one, it's not much you can do. Conserve your energy with people like that. If they seem open to it, start them off with things to read. I would not go all in divesting all this information, because you're going to be pissed off when they just, walk away from it and without any explanation, or worse, an explanation, but, they're letting you know that you're evil. So thanks again for watching. This is Mika with Leap Taken. Go ahead and like the video, please, and subscribe if you have not already. And if you've subscribed, again, I really appreciate it. Thanks. Bye.